All right, good evening, everybody. Today for this session, I'm going to go through exploring NotebookLM. I've been excited to try this out for a little while. I think it came out about 2 weeks ago where people started talking about it and hadn't really gotten much time to really kind of play with it and see what it's capable of. If you've been following along on my channels, I've been using AI locally on my machine to build out a YouTube summarizer. And that's this work here. We got to the point where you can download a YouTube video, take that file, and then save it to your local machine or to Drive. It would go through and look at specific topics. So I want to see kind of what this is capable of and see if we can recreate this pretty quickly, just using this tool instead of needing to go through and need a Python notebook or even a Colab environment. If this can all be done in the NotebookLM, then great. You don't need a lot of extra tools to do it. So there's a couple different scenarios I'd like to try with that. Like we've done a summarizer for books originally, then I took it a little bit further and was like, hey, if I can take this for YouTube videos and use this for my wife for her work, that would be pretty awesome. And then got it to a point where she could give me a YouTube video, I could download it and generate a short 1 or 2 paragraph summary of the video. And then that would give her an idea of whether she wanted to watch the video or not. So I'm interested to see what it's going to do. It looks like it can take links from YouTube. So let's start there. We're going to grab, where is it here? Sorry, I'm still a little under the weather, so I'll be coughing and drinking a bunch of water. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty crazy that it got here as soon as I uploaded it, right? We're talking not even a moment later. It's got a summary here. Doom spending, I don't even think that came out in mine, talking about saving the first 10,000 and then using that to build upon and build your wealth, keep good credit, which is one of the things that came out. Let's see. So ours originally, just from this is the full transcription here. Then we broke it into pieces to summarize it. And then we went through, remove duplicates, stuff like that. And then also said that if it's real estate, personal finance, or productivity, we wanted to hear about those. And it gave us some statistics, talked about the importance of that first $10,000. It was like if you could save $28 a day for, or I think it was 7 or something years, you would have about 100 grand. And then he talks about how what else he did after that. And there's the good credit score point. So honestly, this is really impressive that you can just give it a YouTube video and get a summary of that. So what I'd like to do is add a few more to this. So you can have 50 sources as a limit per notebook. You can just simply create another notebook after this for it, and then we can do, like, you can ask it questions from the videos. It suggests these. So it's, like I said, it's kind of really impressive that it had come through pretty quickly. So let me go, I'm going to go to his YouTube channel. Make sure this doesn't start auto playing. Got videos, popular. Grab the link here. We're just going to paste these in. This video is a lot of multiples in the title. So let's just keep doing this. And grab his top, let's say 10 videos. This is just going by YouTube's popular. And it's interesting. Most of these are older videos. I'm just going to copy these in. It's 4. Like I said, it's pretty awesome that it's pulling things out in a matter of seconds from the videos, whereas we spent, what, 12, 15, 30, 20 hours building out the thing, and then each video takes some time to do this. Because everything's running locally, but it seems like it's got these hooked up and pulling these through. So let's see. That gives us 10 sources now. Great. So let's say, what are the most important concepts from these video sources? Let's say most important personal finance concepts. This was one of the areas that my wife was interested for, so I'm curious to see what it will come out with here. So, okay, this takes a little bit longer. I guess it's to be expected. It's going to try and go across all 10 and see if you get there. Oh, and it specifically gives the sources for each of these. So great. I mean, yeah. And it seems to be organized based on the number of times these things are cited across all these. So that's pretty nice. What is 17? Oh, it's giving you like this specific context for each one. Cool. So yeah, build a strong credit core. Sorry. Yeah, build a strong credit score, invest in real estate, diversify once you have some investments, save up your money. The order of these might not be perfect for what you would need to do if you were trying to execute this, but across the things that he mentions in the video, this seems like a pretty good breakdown of things. Diversify investments, save money. Don't be afraid to take risks. This is pretty good. I'll put here, and then you can copy it. Or you can save it to a note. And it's interesting too, it's building you questions off of these. So what are the personal finance mistakes, right? Like that was the first video that I gave it. So it would jump to taking all these, do the same thing, right? Say, let's just ask, like, what is the order to do these financial goals? Yeah. I don't want to say correct, even though I was really tempted to, because I don't want it to interpret that as there is any one right answer, right? Most people are going to tell you that there is a good variety of ways to get to your conclusion, right? That you want to be. The idea here is to be financially stable and then use that to set up the next things that, the next phases that you want to do in life. And I like that this is like giving good logic, still using those same videos. or I guess not necessarily logic, but facts from the videos to support each of these claims, right? I don't want to use logic here because I don't believe that these are actually generating logic of their own, but rather saying that based on these 10 sources, these are what they believe. Because I imagine if you change the underlying sources here, you would also get a completely different outcome to these questions, right? And that's just if it were a person and you were teaching them logic of finance and then showed them another set of things that were, let's say, wrong or different, they would then choose between the two and come up with the right logic, or the logic that they believe more firmly based on what they learned here. But this works on the assumption of using the sources here. So if I let's say I use only these four and I want to ask it the same question. Will it change significantly? These were 4 videos that talked about like how to make your first investment, how to become a millionaire, Kevin O'Leary reacting to his investments, and then the financial mistakes and pursuits. So when I had seen this, it allowed you to click on and off for sources. That would be neat. Another thing that would be interesting here for another case after this is instead of using YouTube videos, which will probably take longer, I'm wondering if I can pull in papers or articles. Okay, so right, so we changed from this one. It still gave all those same bullet points, didn't it? Save money, invest in real estate, diversify, invest in what you know. Here it says credit score, save money, invest in real estate, diversify, invest in what you know. Yeah, so I think the logic here is sound. For these, now I want to experiment. I want to introduce some noise to this. So what could we do here? I'm going to take some from the same channel, mind you. I'm just going to take some videos that are not on the same topic. I'm going to add them as sources. And I want to see how it deals with like weighting them versus one another. Right, so he's got a couple videos here. Where'd that one go? It's over. This one. What's happening in Santa Monica? Like, I don't want to necessarily say they're more clickbaity in what they look like. It just seems I want to add like negative tone to these and things that he talks about. Let's see. So I want to introduce these. I want to say based on these sources, what are what is best advice from these sources? So I'm curious what's going to happen while this is running. In the meantime, I want to go to ArcSieve and set up some of the next things. So it's interesting here, it came out with a lot of the same things, right? So we see build a strong credit foundation. It's basically saying the same thing. Develop savings habit. I think it's a little bit different, right? No, save money was next. Okay. Invest in real estate. Diversify. Manage debt versus invest in what you know. So it changed slightly, right? And then seek out experts. So instead of invest in what you know, seek experts. This can always be trouble because depending on who you assume is your expert, you may not be getting the most sound advice, right? So that's why I like the invest in what you know a little bit more. But that's my personal opinion on that. What I'm interested here is this version compared to the others. I like that it has a lot more actionable steps here along the way, and it highlights out the key points. So you've got the key here is consistently paying the balance in full, positive cash flow. You know what I'm curious about real quick is I want to go through the times for each of these videos, right? Because it took next to no time to do it. So what we got, 10, 15, 15, so we're at 40 minutes. Another 10-minute video. Another 10-minute video. Looks like an hour video summarized in a couple of moments. Here's 20-minute, 10-minute, 20-minute, 10-minute. So like this is across all these, right? Maybe 3 hours of YouTube videos summarized in less than 3 minutes, and you can ask it more questions along the way for things that you want to know more about. Right? So really powerful stuff here with this. There's no cost to use this. You just go to notebooklm.google.com and you can tie in whatever sources that you want, which all in all is pretty, at least I think is pretty awesome, because we spent, like I said, about 30 hours working to build this over, it was like a month of evenings. And I could do one video at a time. It's going to run through, and all I'm doing is I'm generating a summary. I haven't even figured out a way to ask it questions from the summary. So like this is pretty darn awesome. I'm just going to call this like YouTube summary and questions. And it's all in all pretty powerful. Now, if I close this, no, it just closes that window. So that's the chat notebook guide. I know this is what a lot of people were looking at here, where it was like generating podcasts based off this. So let's play this, or play with it a little bit. This is going to take a few minutes, which is fine. Talk about health and fitness, specific strategies. Follow me, this is crazy. So let's say study guide. Interesting. Why did I just go there and generate? Okay, maybe it's generating. Let's ask it a slightly different question. What are the key points discussed about real estate investment? Right, like let's ask it to dig into more of one of those keywords. It seems like it's generating this in the background, so that's still generating this. So it's doing multiple things at once, and that's great. I can only do one at a time when I'm doing it. Came back pretty quick. Sorry. Focus on cash flow, look at value add, understand leverage, target a specific, yep, avoiding certain property types. Sure. And yeah, this is like, all this is generally sound advice for investing in real estate, right? Focus on the cash flow. If you're going to put a lot of money in, make sure you're getting money out of your investment. You wouldn't want to invest in a property, be losing money every month, because then you're going to have to sell it. Right? Like that's the basic inverse of that. Look for opportunities to add value quickly, right? Cosmetics, right? Your property value goes up, more rental income, and then that leads you to a higher return. But I wouldn't say these two, or sorry, I would say that these two heavily go hand in hand. If it cash flows first, and then you can use that to add value to it, it makes sense. Right? Leverage is basically saying that you can use money to borrow more money, but there's also more risk associated with it. So you do have to be careful, right? Especially when interest rates rise. Like we had this environment over the past year or so where we went from a 2% market to, or 2 to 7. Now we're slowly coming back, right? Those are important. But it generates these quickly based on the videos. And I think this is very quick and very powerful. We're just talking about summaries here, so don't take everything, especially face value. But there are a lot of neat features here. Looks like it's going to call out specific videos. So Kevin O'Leary for one of the videos. What's the main point of that first video that I gave over? Right. So let's see. We just asked it to generate a study guide. So that way, yeah. So if you were actually going through and watching these videos, oh, it gives you the answers here, so you don't even have to do that, right? Questions, right? Longer things. Does it actually give it? Okay. Key terms. Great. I would like this to be a little bit more laid out, like in 1, 2, 3 per line, instead of like getting this a little bit messy. Does this clean up? Oh no, it doesn't. Okay. There, so that's just making it look better, but you got like 50 terms that came out of the thing. But I would be careful because, like, I know, for example, this term whale, right? It's saying it's a very specific definition, talking about cryptocurrency, who can influence market price. But this doesn't necessarily have to only be cryptocurrency. You can have it in a lot of different markets out in the world, right? You can have, when they talk about whales, right? He referenced cryptocurrency here. There's also like whales in like small markets, right? So someone who's a large company or a large supplier can also influence the market, right? And those would also be whale by that same definition. Yeah, I mentioned the Shiba, or I had one of the videos be Shiba. so that it pulled in terms related to that. I'd be curious if it, like, what are the key terms and why are they in this order? But all in all, like, this is, I would still say, like, awesome across it. If you want to learn things quickly, it's a great way to do it. Get a summary of it. We're talking about, we're 25 minutes in here, and if you take the time to, we spent a couple minutes putting in each of the videos, experimenting with this, a lot of information condensed down very nicely, succinctly. Let's ask, like, what is his opinion on non-real estate or personal finance topics? I'm going to just do select all these sources. And I'm curious if it had, okay, so it created an 8-minute audio, I guess, profile. Let's see. So it's interesting here, like, I don't know if you regularly listen to podcasts, you can kind of tell, like, how they, as soon as one starts to fade just a tiny bit, the other one kind of comes over it. Whereas, like, when you're having a more of a conversation with people, it's going to go back and forth. There's going to be small breaks. It's interesting that, like, when I'm listening to this, if I wasn't particularly paying attention, there would be more breaks, right? See, like, same thing, right? Like, they're transitioning from their original point into another thing, but they don't. There's no breath really between these sentences, right? Because it's AI generated. I'm at one speed, right? Like, I took it from 1.5 down to 1 because I felt like maybe I would actually hear it even more, and it definitely is right there as soon as it one finishes. Like, to me, it feels unnatural. I'll let it play. It just feels like, so, like, a lot of back and forth. Uh, I'm not gonna go do it because, like, if this were me, like, listening to this, there's no I don't want to call them like soliloquies, but there's no, like, broad points here, right? There, it's like bam, 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 one to the other, one to the other, one to the other. If I'm listening to this, or maybe it's that I like to listen to more, I guess, conversational monologue. This, to me, like, I'm kind of annoyed listening to it already. Uh, just personally, like, what would I say here? It's not. It's obviously a made up response, right? We asked it to generate it, but all I had to do was click a button. It didn't really give me options, right? Deep dive conversation, 2 hosts only. That's the only thing that I can do, right? So what is this? Lively deep dive discussions that summarize the key topics, experimental features, some notes to help you get started. It's all AI generated, so there's inaccuracies. Okay, okay. or not comprehensive or objective view of the topic, but simply, sure. Only English. It takes minutes. Okay. And I can say thumbs up, thumbs down. Like, oh, I don't know. It seems like I've got no choice here for the audio that I can generate, right? Because if I'm looking at this personally, or like if I wanted to use this notebook to try and generate the audio, it doesn't, at least doesn't appeal to me as an individual. And if I were working to create something, I would want it to at least appeal to me so I could critique it more fairly. This type of thing, like I said, there's no space for a point to actually sit. It's giving you the facts. I'm gonna put air quotes around that because I don't know if all these are true or not. It's trying to base it off the video, but it's one after the other, after the other, after the other, and they're doing almost this point where they are, as soon as one finishes, not even their sentence, right? Because they're supposedly, I guess, riffing with one another. It jumps right on the next thing and comes over the other person. And to me, it feels very, I guess, disorienting to listen to it, where it's like, I do want, I guess, some type of conversation here on these videos, but what exactly are they talking about? We listened to the first minute, they were just talking about Graham Stephan himself in the video. It generated 8 minutes. But like, if I were controlling this, right, based on the questions that I were asking it about the personal finance and the real estate, I would want to be able to take this audio overview and give it, saying like, generate me a 15-minute discussion on the key points in real estate investing or personal finance. But it didn't give me any control here. So maybe this is just a feature that they're trying to test out more before they add to it. But once that initial wow factor of like, oh, it's generating this, but if I like try and look at it more intently as something like that I would want to use, I thought it was better in terms of the summaries. Even if it would just narrate the summary here of this video, that would be a great audio overview, right? But I have like no control over what it's choosing to summarize, I guess. Because I don't know, maybe if I take this, it says, summarize key topics in your sources. If I select only one source, then I hit generate here, is that actually doing that single source? I guess let's find out and see if that works. So we'll put that kind of running and generating in the background. I'm curious what's timeline here. I guess let's click each one of these. No, not close chat. Notebook guide. Let's do each of these. So I generate a frequently asked question. Let's hit study guide again, because I'm not sure if this note was, it was before I selected everything. So are we going to get a different one? Okay, looks like we're starting to get some of the things out. So timeline. Okay. So it's definitely pulling in from other videos, right? We're talking about this timeline here, where now his timeline is pulled into Graham Stephan's, right? Sorry. They talk about that. The Shiba Inu. So it's a timeline of everything from the sources. Okay, study guide. So this is the new one. So it does look like it pulls in. It does specifically talk about like Kevin O'Leary's investment strategy. So let's go through. Okay, so they're now about top one. They're great. So this was the first one. Okay, Kevin O'Leary. So it does mention that in both. In the first time I did this, it did not. We did not talk about Stradman. We did not have this one in here, and you can see it kind of focused more on these. If we're talking about, I gave it 15 sources, right? It chose 3 from the same video. Does it think that those are incredibly important across all the sources? Like, why are these so much higher than the others? Like, one of the videos was specifically talking about his regret for his Model 3 purchase. So that would make sense out of those. So I guess yeah, just kind of reading through these, like, it's okay. I like this version of the glossary better. I talked about that last time, where it's great that it is a key each line. And you can see that, like, the the terms here are different than before, or at least there are other different ones compared to before. So it definitely is taking in the more sources, but I don't know if they want to note that here, that it will create it based on the selections that you have at the time. But it would also be nice to be able to identify which sources are in each of these documents, right? Like right now, I unselected everything. So what would it be? I'm not entirely sure. So like here, how do I, if I came back to this another time, how would I tell the difference between these? Close that, right? This is, I'm just gonna mark this all videos because all video study guide. Right. These are all, what was this? The all video frequently asked questions. Oh, and it shuffles them in the order that you're doing it. So I'm glad I started writing these in, because now I don't, we'll say, like, partial selection study guide. So again, this, like I said, I'm glad I started to change these, because if I had gone into them or made any edits, it would be hard to know which one was which once they're like next to one another. So that's interesting to see if I do this. So if I hit this study guide, oh, and I can't even click into it. So this would get troubling if I did multiple of these at the same time. Well, that's generating. Let's listen to the new, I guess, audio overview. Let's see. I guess this is, they're talking over each other less, but nah, here comes back like, yeah. So like, this is for me personally. Instead of downloading this, like, I would much rather prefer a bit more control over this audio overview section. I said, it's neat. But I feel like that's just it at the moment. It's neat. It's not necessarily substantiated, like substance behind it. And this is just me looking at it more critically, right? For things like I would like to do for here. Just a blank saved note. So it didn't generate anything. Let's go back here. This was supposed to be a study guide. I guess I'll take a look at see if there's any comments or anything. No, I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to blow my nose. While this generates, let's do this to try one more time. Right, I'm doing only this selection. I'm going to tell it to generate. And then, like I said, I'll take a moment here, blow my nose, and we'll see what happens. All right, so it's generated the study guide. Was this the How I Became a Millionaire? Another thing to be careful of here too, right, is when I put in the sources, now that I realize it, it put them all in alphabetical order based on the title, not the order that I added them in. Right? And so I'm curious about the generating this. I'm going to move this here. I'm going to assume if it starts out the same way next time that it's just doing it across all of them. Let's see this video. If I do this one, this is the one we had been summarizing here. I just am curious, what is the study guide for that one? Because now that, like, I guess some of the glossiness of the new features of this notebook are being looked at, like I'm looking at it with more depth. And it's definitely nice for doing things like the YouTube summary, where I'd been working at that for a while. It does take a moment or two for those, but in general, had been pretty quick. It seems like that, especially those first, like this summary here is still from that very first video that I uploaded. It didn't necessarily update once I added in others, right? What was this? The worst financial mistakes study guide. And okay, so right, we had selected just the set to the source. And now I can see why the audio is focusing on the music career as the introduction. It also came back here as the first question in the video. So when we listened to that video, there must have been a decent section at the beginning that was talking about he didn't pursue music. He instead went to real estate, right? Talking about his parents, right? When we listened to like the second minute of that, it was talking about impact from his parents. Interesting. Now we're back to talking about Shredman. So it seems like the study guide, Kevin O'Leary, I know that's specific to one video. So it seems like regardless of what you actually select, it does not matter for these options here or here. This summary I know is based on that first YouTube video. Okay, so I want to click off this. I want to click this one. I'm going to take this suggested question and see, based on the Tesla video only, because it's saying it should be only pulling from one source, if that will make changes or not. Here we go again. Not at all the video that I had selected. So there we go. Yeah, it really does seem like it's going to pull from all sources. I'm not sure if this is something specific to YouTube versus the others. But, right, like I had done YouTube videos. Is there a way I can clear this easily? No, settings. Dark mode, Discord. I don't want those at the moment. I wanted to, I guess, like, interesting. So if I hit, what did I hit to get there? I didn't hit that. It wasn't that. How did I get that? Oh. Okay. So you can remove and rename by going to the dots. And if I click on the title, it gives me the YouTube cap. It looks like this pulls the transcription. Is that the whole video? I'm not exactly sure. Key topics from this video. Let's see. Just what that is. This time it came back with a 20-minute YouTube summary. So each time it got a little bit longer. We went 9 minutes to 12 minutes to 20 minutes. Right? Yeah, 1950. But that, where'd the check go? Here. Where's my scroll bar? I don't see it. That's a little bit disappointing. Please don't tell me I have to go all the way through. Okay. Okay. So if I click into the video, it will then give me a summary of that video. It will then give me the key topics. If I want to click into those more, let's do cash flow. Okay. While that's going, like Tesla 3 model regrets. Let's see here. So it tells you from the transcript. We'll go back to this one in a second. Interesting. Let's just talk generally about the Model 3, and while that's generating, let's look at the cash flow. So understanding cash flow in real estate. Oh, sorry. Talking specifically about that video. And you know what? That's a pretty good summary of why cash flow is important. We're doing, it seems like it had finished. Okay, so I finished the Tesla 3 stuff and then kind of jumped to the bottom of that automatically. This is that same summary from before. Let's see what it says here. Price ownership, strategies. It's interesting. So he's giving an honest, critical review. Yeah, like reading through this. Okay, it's okay. So I've learned a little bit more on how to control these. You click into a video, it gives you kind of the summary of each one. Okay, let's just do discuss for step order because I'm curious if it will only use the video as a source or will it try and do more about it. And then, okay, so this is the transcript here. So let's see. I'm curious when it says sources plural, right? But we only gave it one video to do the source by clicking here. So I'm curious why they worded it that way. Sorry, I'm reading through the points here. So I'm talking about more about promoting his books and content rather than yeah, actionable insights in the videos. He agrees with the argument for school not teaching people how to be financially secure. That makes sense. Sure. And okay, so based on all these, yeah, there's some good, there's some bad. It's not great. Sorry for these. But yeah, it's interesting. They don't really provide, I guess, a lot of guidance on doing that. I suppose if you're poking around, you kind of figure this out. Like I did accidentally more than that. And then unfortunately it forces it into the chat here. So like if I wanted to make notes of this video, right, it comes up, but then I have no option here, right? Can I pin this? Copy? Save it as a note. Okay. Okay. Then it starts to make a little more sense. It's interesting here. It has specifically 8 citations. All of them are the transcript. Okay. Yeah, because I would rather it say, instead of saying like primarily here, let's just say like the source. The source of this examination is based on this YouTube video by Graham Steph entitled blah, 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 would be way more like critical. No, critical is not the right word. Way more clear on where exactly it's getting its sources from, rather than it being kind of ambiguous. Because if you're going to use the transcript to generate this anyway, I guess maybe because the LLM is stringing together the sentence, that it can't say it's only from the YouTube video. There's also the model's interpretation. Maybe, but I don't know if people would understand that nuance enough to make a large difference here. Because if I'm looking at this as like, my role is building data science, AI, ML products, and I'm looking at this, it's like, again, a lot of these are neat, but how can I action these? Like the product here is the notebook as a whole. But if you want, your user to be using this regularly, it's for what purpose? You give me a few neat features, right? Like adding in sources, incredibly easy. Pick what you want to add Google Docs, Google Slides, great, because this is a Google product, YouTube videos, websites, paste in text, and then you can upload some things. Great, you have a lot of different sources that you can put in here. But when I get to actually generating some of these summaries, it does not seem like it's using multiple of these. One moment. Let's take, I know there's two Teslas. So how about a Tesla? My Tesla 3 regret. And let's ask, what does, what's his name? Kevin O'Leary think about the Tesla Model 3? Great. I'm glad that this came back the way it did, because I did have a Kevin O'Leary video in here. I'm going to add that as a source, and we are going to re-ask it the same question. Great. And so this time it gave back the sources of what the transcript. Okay. Great. So like these are good responses in terms of protecting the user from trying to generate something that doesn't, something that never was actually asked or brought up, right? Let's see, what other questions can we ask that are kind of tricky? Let's do a couple of these, and then what do these videos mention about luxury cars? I'm not trying to say the Bugatti from the other video, but I'm curious if it will draw any conclusion. Okay, great. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is a good answer here, because if I include where is this one? No, which one is it? Feed the homeless man. Okay. So now that I included this, right? What do these videos mention about luxury cars? It should actually give me a response now, because the last video that I added talks about going from homeless to driving a Bugatti, right? And I'm curious if it will tell me the same thing, where Graham Stephan didn't necessarily do it, or if it will actually talk about more of Stephan's views. So a lot of this is going to come out of that Stradman video, right? So earlier when we were clicking on these, right, it was nice that it was telling us do it. I don't like that it opens the transcript. Oh, here we go. Okay, how I became a millionaire in real estate. Homeless man bought Bugatti. Let's see. So honestly, that's a pretty fair conclusion from it, right? That I would say, like, this is pretty well put together. And when I first gave it without talking about the cars, it said basically there's no real conclusions to be drawn, right? That was this one here. Doesn't mention luxury cars, just talks about Tesla Model 3, which, based on the sentence, would maybe be considered a luxury car. And he talks about hypothetical, which he jokes about the Lamborghini, right? We saw that come up. Oh, once we added the Mr. Stedman video, and then Mr. Stedman, what was his name? Stradman. Where now, once we added that in there, it talks a lot more about it, and then talks about him being a little critical. I want to say a little critical, but has concerns about, oh, you're spending a lot of money on cars, right? Like in your monthly payments. So I guess as long as the money's coming in, but Graham personally would do something different. So another curiosity is, does it always use last names? Stefan, Kiyosaki, Stefan. Yeah, so I guess that's something else that kind of just struck me now, is it's when it refers to these videos, when it refers, or when he does it, it's always like last name. Which is interesting, because I would think you would move that to be using the first name of it. Makes it more personal, more direct. I guess when you're writing summaries and stuff, yeah, you typically would use last name. I guess the easy flip there would be to make it more personable, and then just switch to the first names, right? Instead of just saying Stefan every time, just say Graham. Graham highlights the financial benefits, including these tax credits, depreciation write-offs, and gas savings. It's just like small things like that. I know it's a beta experimental stage. Because we're talking about, I can take this and do it. Oh yeah, let's go back to this YouTube summary and see we'd given it just a single video. And let's see what they came out this time. Hold on there. Did they stumble? YouTube? Hold on. There was a third voice right there, right? Like that. Yeah. Completely off putting. But anyway, so I guess I'm just looking at this a little too critically. Sorry. Again, it's like, I don't know. I guess I still don't like it. Let's jump further along and see um, what's better. Okay, so they're spending a lot of time on here. It would be great if it had referenced like a example from these. He talks about blah blah blah. Let's see if he mentions that. If there's like one voice echoes the other, it's to me that's more off-putting. Like if you're gonna do this, giving examples from your sources would be great. Here, they just talked about budget for extra. At least 20%. At least 20%, right? To me, that's annoying. But like, why? Why is that important? It hadn't hit that and give it a little bit more. There's still a lot of that talking over one another. But let's see. So they are now, I guess, giving an example, or they're talking about his first one. Finally, we're 7 minutes in, and hearing an actual one. I know we skipped a little bit, but that's still okay. She said, but it's risky. He also said, but it's risky. Again, why? Let's see. So again, why was it risky? They never talked about it. Like there's a lot of this is very, very surface level. If you're going to tell me that these are based on the sources, you can give me the citations, then in the text summaries, use those as some of the examples here to make this better, rather than it just being something that is uh, very highly regurgitating. I don't even want to say key points, but uh, again, it feels very surface level. There's no depth to any of this. So am I going to spend 19 minutes listening to this summary of 3 hours of YouTube videos and really getting nothing out of it? Because that would be disappointing, right? The whole point we call this YouTube summary and questions is we were trying to get that summary of things and ask it questions. And so far, this has not actually accomplished that. Again, still no real substance. Like, it's a volatile market. Can you tell me more about the market? Why is it volatile? Sorry. There we go again, right? They're echoing one another without actually adding to it. They gave, at least this time, they gave an example, but it seems like they're talking through his properties now. But it didn't give any real substance to it. Okay, so he bought a second property, another duplex. He made some renovations, increased its net worth. Great. Are we gonna spend another minute or two to do it and not actually talk about like what the changes are that he made, or what? Okay, they mentioned it's a snowball. Leverage is a snowball effect. Why is it a snowball effect? And we had already done in one of the examples here. Leverage also carries risk, and I'm curious if they will mention how leverage is a snowball, but remember that snowball can always come back and roll over you. So let's see. Sorry. There's a lot of like, still that crosstalk and not actual depth. Sensei is a very different perspective, but what is that perspective? Right. Hopefully they go into that a tiny bit here, just a couple words even. Let's see. It she kind of glitched out. Love that episode. I guess maybe they didn't want to say that. It's a YouTube video. Um, but all in all, okay. They talk about differences in terms of the different types of properties. I don't know that they're necessarily that completely different though. Um, at least personally, he's talking about Graham Stephan so far. They've only mentioned duplexes that he invested in versus the real estate mogul who's got college student apartments, what was it, adult living, those types of things. So let's see. Okay. They spent a lot of time just to say that, and then why is that smart? Because the parents are on the hook for paying it. Like maybe this is just me annoyed at they're talking over one another like immediately after it, and they echo one another. They don't add to it. Where I felt like if this was more of a podcast, it should be more discussion, more specific examples. We are at least getting a few examples now that we are further in, but they've been few and far between. And it's mostly talking about like the contrast of styles that I would have liked to see more across this. I'm not going to listen to this anymore. I think it's a neat feature, but it's still very surface level. There's no depth in what it's generating. I know there are tools out there that can, if you give it a script, it will generate for you. And then you can also use another thing to generate the script. So now you have two separate tools. The first one generates the script. You make some small edits to it. You pass it along to the next one to generate the voices. But this, for the amount of time it took compared to other things, I would think even if it could take, how do I close this here? Let me take one of these and turn this into the basis for one of these podcasts. I think would be even better. Just pick this one, the Rich Dad Poor Dad one, right? Like this feels like it's got depth to it. It can talk about it where you don't necessarily have to give it this structure, but you can say, okay, here's my reaction to Graham Stevens' opinion on Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? And then Rich Dad Poor Dad is an incredibly impactful book, especially to people who are new in learning about personal finance, right? And all I'm doing is I'm trying to summarize this quickly. And so Stephen then gives credit to Kiyosaki for that, as it's very important. But the more that he's been in the space, right, he's starting to actually disagree with some of the points there. Savers are losers, dollars are worthless long term, right? Like Kiyosaki is very short term in his approaches. He's looking about getting his money in, making more money on that money, getting his money out, and moving on to the next investment, right? Based on this summarization here, and I've read the book myself, but then it starts to talk about, he thinks that with him being on YouTube, it's more about marketing his new book, which is, at that time, talking more about what was it? He had like 20 real estate experts or something. Nexo Dev, thank you. You have a good night as well. We talked about using the YouTube video to be clickbaity, over sensationalized for the point of making those claims, right? And that's something that I would like to see in this, the audio overview function, is if you could take one of these and actually turn this into, I don't like those two voices, but the two people playing off one another, discussing these points and going back and forth. I think that would be a far better use case for this than now, where it's two people consistently talking over one another, and rather than I would rather it be have more depth to it than just two people talking over one another, because it doesn't really get into anything along the way. I think that would be a far better use of this, rather than just 20 minutes of not really going into anything of substance. And so we did a few experiments here with this audio overview. It just goes off of all the sources that you have rather than your selections. So you have very little control over this audio overview. It would be nice if they could add features to this in the future to make it more usable. So that way I can say, give more depth in these points that you're making. Have the two hosts talk over one another less, or not necessarily talk over, but as soon as one finishes, before the other one's voice is faded, the other one's already jumping in on top of it and coming over. And then there's a lot of echo conversation between them, where voice one will say something and voice two will say the exact same thing. Oh, he's so good, so good. Like that just kind of grew to get quite annoying in the long term of listening to this. And we had only generated, or we didn't have control over how long it had generated the video for it as well. Maybe we can, if they can add something that we can give it more control over how the interactions are, or maybe over the sources for it, it would go a long way into making it something that would be more usable. I guess the counter argument to that is maybe they don't want people to just take this and take the audio, send it over to YouTube, and play it as a podcast. Because that's what someone would do if I were just trying to make a ton of content pretty easily. There are tools out there already, but I think this can get improved pretty significantly. Another thing that I had found out in my exploration here is that these options here will go off of all of these sources, regardless of what you have selected. So the only time that these sources are actually being based on the selections are when you are chatting with it. So that's another caveat. When I had done the chat, we had played with adding and taking away videos at the time. I had specifically selected, another thing too is that there's no scroll bar here. So I have to like roll through everything. What do we got? Can I go home? And no, those don't even interact with it all. Here I had selected just the videos on the Tesla Model 3 that he had done, and didn't really mention luxury cars, except for he made a joke in one and it called it out, which was great. But then the thing after that was where it had taken away, or I'd added the video from Stradman's video to it. And now it added way more to it, or way more to the response specifically around cars. And that is a good outcome, because they're like it is actually interacting with the sources that you provide it. And all in all, that was pretty great to see. So the chat part is, I think, well set up, and we'll actually interact with the sources and do those. That part's nice. The notebook guide seems, and the features that are in here seem like these are at least newer in their development phases and are not interacting with the rest of the things that you have available. And we did that here when we when I generated. Can I close these easily? The notes. So I took the chat here from the Rich Dad Poor Dad when I select that as a single note, or I select that as a single source, and then made the note for it. But I selected worst financial mistakes and asked it to do the study guide. It ended up doing everything across all the videos, because I did not select Mr. Beast. I did not talk about, or I did not select Stradman's. I did not select the Kevin O'Leary, and it still gave me information on that. And so if I were going from here and offering next steps for improvement for this, I know it's still in that experimental stage, but when you're giving me this notebook guide option, maybe make a mention that it is not, it's by default, it's pulling from all the sources that you've added to here, instead of doing individuals ones. So it might be better if it wanted to do that. Then if I click FAQ, pass it to the chat, and you know, the default prompt there could be, based on the selected sources, what are the frequently asked questions? Here is my template for that. And that would probably be an easy implementation of it. So instead of automatically referring to all of them, pass this to the chat, generate it, and automatically save it as a note. Maybe, yeah, because then it's going to block the chat while it's going through and doing that generation. Since these are asynchronous, so it's not going to block the chat, then fine, make it a separate chat instance that automatically generates a note as a way to do that. At least that's my suggestion. So it seems like a lot of the stuff here in the notebook guide, it's great when you have a single source in here, because that's the only thing you can pull from. But if you have multiple sources, it will pull from all of them, regardless of what you select, unless you're using the chat. So that's a little bit of a disconnect as a user in terms of the expectations, right? Like right now, I have 5 sources selected. If I hit the FAQ or the study guide, I shouldn't see anything about Mr. Beast or Kevin O'Leary. I could even unselect the Stradman here. It shouldn't give me anything based on those. And we saw that that wasn't the case when I came here, right? Talked about how I became a millionaire study guide, and it talks about things as life, but then here we go. Kevin O'Leary, Stradman, Robert Kiyosaki. These were not selected at the time. So these are things that I personally would like to see, not just as a, well, firstly, as a user of the product, because I think there are a lot of good things here that are done very quickly and very well. Frankly, I was surprised when I had imported the first video, and I expected it to be, you know, maybe like a 5-minute delay. It had it in what, maybe 30 seconds. Had popped up this guide with this summary, which is based on that first video that I put in, and then suggested questions. And I'm guessing these are here always type of deal that helped me create in the audio overview section. But then this suggested questions and summary never updates. And maybe that's something that could be done over time, where maybe based on the selections, generate me a summary or at least update what the suggested questions are. Another nice thing was about the chat was as long as I had something selected, it would give me other prompts or the questions to ask the chat based on those. This is based on the last selection that I given. So I had the Stradman's video in there. So it would give me a question about Stradman. Perfectly fine. Makes sense to me. But yeah, I mean, we spent an hour and a half here just kind of going through a variety of different use cases. This was specifically going through and trying to summarize YouTube videos and asking questions. I think what I'll do is tomorrow's Friday. I'm going to try and come back tomorrow evening and do this again, but I'm going to take articles from ArtCiv, and I'm going to do, I guess, specifically, let's say, some computer science or statistics videos. I'm going to, or not videos, research papers. Maybe take the popular ones similar to what I did for these videos, pull them down and ask us some questions about those and see if maybe we can get a different response. Maybe this was something that was specific to using YouTube as a source, or if it's kind of more general. So we'll explore another use case tomorrow of using this kind of as a research assistant rather than doing YouTube summary. I'm gonna have to go through, I think it seems like I can only have one notebook at a time. So if I can only have one notebook at a time, then I'm gonna have to go through, I'm gonna have to delete each of these sources. Maybe I'll save them as a list somewhere else, so that way we can see if we can get apples to apples comparison and recreate it afterwards. So for those of you who came, I apologize for a lot of coughing throughout the video. It was definitely neat seeing how quickly it could get summarizations of each of these videos. So I've clicked into this multiple times, but it does have a transcript of these videos here, and it has a summary of each of the videos. I discovered that accidentally during my time here, and then when you click these, it will use that as the source and then say key topics. Interesting is if I click into a second video, now it says 2 sources. And so if I click rental property, I'm not sure if it would be just for that video or if it will now pull from all of them. So let me see. Let me see, are there any others? Let's just do this. Okay, so I selected these videos. I'm going to go back to, not that one. I don't want content creation. I want real estate agent. And I want to see if it pulls it from all the videos. Sorry, all the videos, the video selected, or just that individual video, even though it says discuss real estate agent. Let's see. Okay, so that's interesting. So now that I have 5, it changed it to a series of videos from Graham Stefan's YouTube channels, whereas before it would say like primarily from a single video. Multiple sources. So this talks about how I became a real estate millionaire. I'm just curious if these are all the same video, just different part of the transcripts. Yeah, okay, surprising. Let's see. Because I would want it to, if it used a different video, show those, but it seems like it does not. Yeah, so I don't want to click through all to try and find all these and figure it out. How to buy my first month's property. Okay, so it does use multiple videos as its great. So right, how I became a millionaire, and then how to buy a first rental property. So we'll Sorry, I'll try this one last time. So it will refer to, when you click into these videos, it will pass it to the chat and actually keep the same chat interactions. Whereas when you're here in the notebook guide, it does not. So I'm going to guess, and it's only speculation, if there were a way to have this tie into the chat selections, or at least interact with the selections here, maybe not necessarily go to the chat, it would be great to have that, because it would give you a little more control over these. Whereas right now, it doesn't even say it's using all of them. It doesn't say it's using one or however many. And so it's really unclear. But it seems like, from the little bit of experimentation that I've done, it's always going to all of the sources. And so hopefully a little quality of life there. Again, tomorrow I'll come back and I will go through experimentation with PDFs, which I will download a bunch of papers, pull them in there, and try and ask it questions around those. Try and mess with it a little bit today. So the chat was really good about how it would interact with videos and actually using these sources correctly, which was nice. We had asked it. What was it? There was something I did where I was like, there was something I was asking about Kevin O'Leary's opinion on, I think it was the Tesla car, and it said there was no opinion based on the sources that you provided, there was no opinion of Kevin on the Tesla Model 3, which is great. And then I selected the 2 Tesla videos and asked him to, yeah, here it is. The 2 sources, unfortunately, it doesn't tell you the sources, which, they're like small quality of life. I think even if it's just like down here, the videos source information, so that way it makes it easier to follow along with what you selected and selected. But then when I added him in, it doesn't say anything particular about Kevin O'Leary talking about his car, which is great, because that was the case based on the transcript. So all in all, great tool for summarization of YouTube videos, individual videos, groups, and being able to ask questions across those videos. So chat, awesome, like 2 thumbs up. This was great. The notebook guide features seemed very cool when we first got them. Like, oh, great, this creates a study guide with lots of terms. Creates questions and their answers. Seemed neat, but as we dug in to it and I said, okay, I would like a study guide for one specific video, it did not do that. And maybe I have to ask the chat to do that, but it's not apparent from this button what it is referring to, and that I think that can be improved. And then the audio overview, it's neat, but there are a lot of things that can be done better with it. There's no control. Your only control here is to click the generate button. I can't even change off 2 hosts. I know they say it's English only for now, but it says it's a deep dive conversation. When we listen to the audio, there's not really a lot of depth to what it's discussing. It was very surface level, a lot of echoey responses back and forth, which were just quite off-putting, because one person's void doesn't even phase it out and the other one's coming over the top. And again, it's supposed to be a deep dive conversation, but it did not really dive into any of the principles that they were referring to. It gave specific examples in like a timeline format of like Graham investing in properties, but even then, I only talked about the first 2 before it talked about another video there where he met the $250 million man. And there's a lot of room for improvements and making it more useful or making it more user-friendly. Either one would be great. So that's all for today. I'll come back probably tomorrow, and we'll use this kind of like in a research assistant way, where we'll put in a bunch of papers and try and use those. So thank you for coming. I appreciate you guys checking this out, and hopefully this was interesting. Try and give you a perspective just from my side, where I'm a senior principal data scientist, and a lot of my work is developing data science projects and seeing how these can be improved, not just beyond the coolness factor, but just providing some honest feedback. Thank you, and have a great night.